Hello class, it's Mrs. Poffenberger, and today we're going to be doing the pig heart dissection. The first part that we're going to be performing today is the external dissection. So you are going to get all of your materials, your dissection tray, a dissecting probe, you can get a pair of forceps, dissecting scissors, and a scalpel will be the different materials that you will need. And then obviously you're going to need to get your pig heart from me. So when you get your pig heart and you put it in your tray, you're going to look at the anterior side first. And remember, the anterior side, you can tell that based on the apex. So the apex should be pointing toward the heart's left or your right as you're looking at it. Also, you should be able to see the atria on the top, and you can see them sort of sticking out. Those are indications that it is the anterior side. So we have the anterior side of the heart showing right now. So we're going to go through those different parts of the anterior heart. Okay, so as we're looking, we can see our atria. So right here, this would be your left atrium, the pig heart's left atrium. Over here would be the pig heart's right atrium. And you can see in comparing them to the rest of the heart, they're not that large. So the atria are much smaller in comparison to our ventricles. So here we have the right ventricle, and then here would be the left ventricle of the heart. Also on the surface of the heart, you can see the different coronary arteries. Okay, so they look almost a little blue or purplish in color, but you can see them throughout the myocardium here of the heart. So make sure you pay attention to looking at those arteries. You'll also notice a lot of fatty tissue. So all this yellow is fat. If you want to remove some of that, you can. You don't have to, but it might be beneficial to take your scissors and just cut off some of that fat so you can see structures a little bit better. And a lot of that fat is located around your great vessels. So your arteries of the heart, which would be the pulmonary artery and the aorta, and then the veins, the vena cava, and the pulmonary veins. So that was pretty much the anterior part of the heart. So again, I'm sorry, I didn't do the great vessels. So again, though, we have right atrium, right ventricle, left ventricle, and then the great vessels. Here we have the pulmonary trunk, okay, which is going to turn into the pulmonary artery. So that's coming out of the right ventricle, remember. And then we also have the aorta, the aortic arch here with our different parts that are branching off of the aortic arch there. So we would have the brachiocephalic trunk, which would be here. We have the left common carotid, which would be in the middle. And then we have the left subclavian, which would be coming off here as well. And then the aorta coming off. We can't really see that left subclavian much. So that would be the anterior of the heart. So now we'll turn it over to the back. I'm going to cut off a little bit more fat here from our great vessel. Need to cut a little more. So again, all that yellow, white yellow material, that's all fat. So you can remove some of that if you'd like, just to be able to see structures a little bit better. If you don't remove it, it's not hurting anything, but it'll just help you see a little better. And you'll see when your hands will get a little greasy because that is fat that you're removing from the heart. Okay, so looking at the posterior surface of the heart now. So we can still see the atria. So here now we have the right atrium. Here we have the left atrium. Here we have the right ventricle. Here we have the left ventricle. And we can see again the aorta here, where we have the brachiocephalic and the common carotid, and then clavium would be here, but it's kind of not shown and has sort of been removed there. So here would be where the aorta would be coming, and it would go then down toward the back of the heart if it was still intact there. We can see other great vessels as well. So this is the right atrium. So remember, in the right atrium, you have the vena cava hooking up to the right atrium. So you have the superior and inferior vena cava. And the easiest way to find these blood vessels is by using your probe. So right here, this would be the superior vena cava because it's coming in up from the superior part of the body, the top of the body, and going into the right ventricle. And you know you have the right vessel if you go in using your probe, you will actually connect into the right atria. So you can see my probe is going in there. And then down below here, we have the inferior vena cava. So that opening also going up into the right ventricle. And again, you can push your probe up in there and you can feel that it's going into the right ventricle. And because that is one blood vessel, the vena cava is one blood vessel there, you can actually stick your probe the whole way through, and you can go from the inferior vena cava up through the superior vena cava. Okay, so that's the vena cava connecting up to the right atrium. We also, remember, have those pulmonary veins that are bringing blood that is oxygenated back into the left ventricle. So there are 4 of them. You might be able to find all 4 of them on your heart, or you might not. If you can't find all 4 of them, that's okay. They might have been removed and you might not be able to locate them. But I believe on this heart we do have 4. So here's one. You can see, and it's going, again, if you put in your probe, I can go the whole way into that right atrium. I actually poked through the right atrium there. Here we have another one down here. So that's 2. Then we have one up here, so that would be 3. And then one over here, which is 4. So again, you can see they're a little bit smaller blood vessel in comparison to the vena cava, but you have those 4 different ones. So again, try to locate all 4. If you can't find all 4, it might just be because they've been, how your heart's been removed. It might have damaged some of the vessels. But those 4 pulmonary veins going into that left atrium, bringing blood back from the lungs. We can also see our other 2 great vessels. We can see the aorta, again, which I've already said about, which is going to go down into the left ventricle, and you can put your probe down in there too to see how it's going down into the left ventricle. And then here we have the pulmonary artery. So pulmonary artery taking blood from the right ventricle to the lungs in order to get oxygenated. So those are all the great vessels of the heart and all the parts of the posterior heart. So that pretty much ends our external dissection. So make sure you're locating and looking at all the different parts of the heart, looking at also the myocardium and the structure of the ventricles, structure of the atria, how they look before you do any of the internal examination. Okay, so that's it for the external examination. And we'll be moving on next to the internal examination. Thanks for listening and watching. Have a great one.